Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. Today is June 19th. For those you don't know, happy Juneteenth. I'm going to read this off for you because I think there's value in understanding the history of something, right? So, June 19th, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, and Liberation Day, is a non federal American holiday and an official Texas state holiday celebrated annually on the 19th of June in the United States to commemorate Union General Army Officer Gordon Granger for announcing federal orders in the city of Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, proclaiming that all the slaves in Texas were now free. Although the Emancipation Proclamation had formally freed them almost 2.5 years earlier, and the American Civil War had ended in a defeat of the Confederate States in April, Texas was the most remote of slave states with a low presence of Union troops. So enforcement of the proclamation had been slow and inconsistent. Now, here's what's important as well. Juneteenth, even though it was the official end of slavery in the state of Texas, it did not end slavery altogether. For people who don't know, slavery in the United States did not officially end until the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, December 6, 1865, which abolished slavery entirely in the United States in all territories. So great day to all of you. Shout out to my buddy, Mr. Spencer, for my all black shirt. I appreciate it. Told you I wear it. Just want to say, for those of you that are taking the time, whatever amount of time you give to watch this, I appreciate it. I'm hoping that this conversation gives you value. And I want to talk to you about this day. But before you might think of clicking away because you think you know what I'm going to say, I'm encouraged that you stay on to the very end because you might be surprised about what you hear. So there's a wave and a conversation right now about making Juneteenth an official national holiday. We'll see how that goes. But the reason I wanted to do this live, this video today, was because there's so much going on in the world, and there's a shift. There's a shift that is happening. There's an awareness that is happening, unlike probably anything I've seen in my lifetime. And, the beginning of 2020, people from all over the world they played off the 2020 being perfect vision, that this is a year of perfect vision. I myself had t-shirts made about 2020 because in the seeing eye chart, 2020 is perfect vision. So I had t-shirts made with perfect vision. I saw other people with things talk about 2020 and perfect vision. What we could not have seen in 2019 was a global pandemic, an economic meltdown, the continuation of global warming, and now a race crisis happening all across, not just the United States, but all around the world. See, in 2019, year of not 2020, we couldn't have seen what we're now seeing in 2020. So 2020 has been for sure a year of clarity and vision. You and I are now being able to see things more than ever before. Like we're now seeing things clearer, maybe right now, than we've ever seen in our entire lives. And the other thing is that so many other people in the world are now seeing things. You see, when you have a seeing eye chart, like you go to the doctor and they have the seeing eye chart, the letters are always there. The letters are there. Your ability to see them determines the level of vision that you currently have. And so for people who were present but did not see what had already been there, now the revelation is here. And now that things are being revealed, I see, and I'm having these conversations, and I'm seeing conversations happen literally on a consistent basis. And I'm blown away. And I'm blown away. Let me tell you why I'm blown away. I'm blown away that things that I took for granted that everyone knew, so many people didn't know. Like, I'm blown away that the circumstances that so many people have lived in within this country for so long, so many people just really weren't present to. But here's something else that's blowing me away. And it's very apt that we're having this conversation on Juneteenth. What else is blowing me away is I'm seeing relationships so different. And when I say different, I'm seeing people. I saw an article about a woman and her husband divorcing over everything that's going on. And it was because she was a staunch Democrat, he's a staunch Republican. Now, they all knew this when they got married, but somehow everything right now has heightened emotions. And so she said that she had to file for divorce. And when the interviewer asked why, said, I couldn't spend the rest of my life with someone who thought like that. Now, when I read this article, I thought to myself, wow, I'm going to make the guess that he thought like that and you thought like that probably when you got married. But now for some reason it's different. So she went and filed for divorce. Okay, your right is your right. That's fine. But then I began to notice something. Because when you begin to pay attention, when you really, really begin to pay attention, you really, really begin to observe the world in a very, very different way. So let me explain what I mean by that, okay? Now really, really pay attention, all right? I have seen people now for the first time in my life at such a level put politics above relationship. Never seen it this much in my entire life before. Never. You know, when I was in college, and he might see this at some point in time. Much love to you, Dan. When I was in college, I have a buddy of mine named Dan. Dan was my very first super conservative friend. Like, when I say conservative, I mean, I was laughing with a buddy of mine last night about it. Like, the stuff he would say, we would scrunch our faces up like, what? What planet are you from, right? And we would have these debates, and it was you know what it was? It was great. It was great. It was great because we'd have these debates about how he saw the world, and I'd tell him how I saw the world, and you know, it was phenomenal. We'd be up till like 1 o'clock in the morning debating and arguing over this and that and that and this. But at the end of it, there was love. At the end of it, there is love. Matter of fact, you know, I want you to imagine this picture, all right? So my friends, you know, you have 3 brothers, okay? And you have this really pale white guy. And we're all rolling together, right? Like the 4 of us all rolling together, right? And when my mother passed away, I was living in Newark, New Jersey at the time. And 2 of my buddies came down, because remember there's 4 of us really. 2 of my buddies came down, Donald, Devon, came down to stay with me because they realized it was a really tough time. But in the heart of downtown Newark, and if you've never been downtown Newark, it's real. Well, it was real. I'm assuming it's still real. This light white guy, Dan, gets off of the bus at 11:30 at night. He rode a bus from Connecticut to come and stay with me in Newark, New Jersey. When I met him up to go pick him up, you can't imagine the looks on the faces of everybody around, like, what is he doing here? My staunch Republican card-carrying buddy came down to Newark, New Jersey in the middle of the night to stay with a friend that he knew was going through a tough time. And unfortunately, today, people are so political that they're willing to sacrifice relationship for politics. And that is, in my opinion, and I don't mean like new relationships. I mean long-term, long-standing relationships. And that is really hard. That is really hard to see. Because how I grew up was not like that. How I grew up, you could have an opinion and they could have a difference of opinion and we could still love one another. And for some reason today, the message is, if you have an opinion, contrary to my opinion, at least politically, we can't, it's not even that we can no longer see eye to eye. It's that I have to almost at some level hate you. So now, because as strong as love is, so is hate. Love is stronger than hate, but hate is really strong. So now, because I hate your opinion, I now am questioning love for you. And not only that, I'm also in the pursuit of my position, because my position is contrary to your position. And because we don't see eye to eye, because we don't see the world the same way, what most people don't realize is that in the pursuit of the fixedness of their position, they are showing traits of the very thing that they hate. Because when you hold a position to the point where you can no longer hear the words of another person, you may not realize it, but at some level, those are some of the traits of the person that you hate. Now, why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you because on this day of Juneteenth, where there will be celebration of people who waited 2 years to hear that they were free. They waited 2 years in the state of Texas. After the Emancipation Proclamation, they waited 2 years. 2 years they had to wait. 2 years in fields, 2 years being whipped, 2 years enslaved. They had to wait an extra 2 years to hear that they were free. My point in doing this today, on this day, was 2 reasons. Number one is to celebrate and acknowledge the day, because this is a day of celebration. But let us remember that it was on December, in the month of December, when the 13th was signed, that slavery was abolished all across the U.S. territories. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. So that's the first reason. But the second reason is because freedom came through unity. Here's what it was. It was black, it was white, it was different faiths, it was Protestants, it was Catholics, it was people in the Jewish community, it was Baptists. Like, it wasn't a minority of people, it was a minority of people who created a majority of an awareness that created a movement that created a freedom. Now, there's a movement happening right now, and it's an incredible movement. And in the midst of this movement, I want you to consider something. Really, really consider something. I want you to consider that in the midst of this movement, don't break the ties of relationships that have held us together. Don't choose to break a relationship of love because of politics. Because a good friend of mine said to me yesterday that politicians change, but if you lose relationships because of political feelings and the bonds of those relationships are damaged, when that person leaves office, they leave and they go on to their lives, but you still are dealing with damage. Everybody, look, we could do so much more together than we can individually. And my hope is that we don't just listen from a space of hate, but that we listen from a space of what is. Here's what is. People are hurt. Here's what is. People will continue to hurt people. No matter what laws are signed, there will always be someone bigoted that will hurt somebody else through words or actions. That is as true today as it has been for hundreds of years in this country, thousands of years all around the world. Laws need to change. That is true. Laws are changing. That is true. The movement is creating momentum like never before. And in the midst of all that, if you say all are that, then you will now find yourself dealing with principles that will have you become that which you hate. So if you look, I read this article about people putting bleach in a milkshakes of police officers. If you hear something like that and you don't hear that as or see that as a hate crime, you are wrong. That is wrong. You cannot take an entire group of people in any circumstance and say they are that. The moment they are, whatever you say they are, you've now become that which you hate. Because in any society, there'll be a group of people who feel that way and a group of people who feel that way. Remember that the only reason we could celebrate Juneteenth or the Emancipation Proclamation or the ratification of the 13th Amendment is because in this culture, in a predominantly white American society, there were white Americans hundreds of years ago that said slavery is wrong, we need to do something. And whether it was you believe to fight the war, doesn't matter. It was signed. In other words, you can never just lump everyone together in one thing, whether it's a political affiliation, a race, a profession. It is wrong to say you are that because they are that, and because they are that, you must be that too. That is the very basis of racism. And when you do that, you end up becoming the thing that you hate. You become, whether you realize it or not, the very thing you're protesting against. You become, and you do not want to become that. I want you to this day, a day of freedom, a day of an awareness that was late by 2 years. I don't want you to be late in this awareness and have further relationship bonds broken. I want you to pause for a second on this day and look and ask yourself a question. In the pursuit of that which I am in belief of, in the explanation to my family of the significance of this day, in the desire to have equality, racial inclusion, political inclusion, am I being present to what my true mission is? Because if I go too far, I become that which I protest against. I become that which I hate. And that is not the purpose of this movement. This movement is about change and creating change. This movement is about change long overdue. This country is long overdue. These things, this 2020 I talked about earlier, these things have always been there. It's always been there. It's always been there. But now, for the first time, you can see it. That's it. And if people are seeing it for the first time and they want to do something about that which they see, instead of cursing the fact that people could not see, celebrate the fact that they are now willing to see and they want to participate in change. Everybody, it is time for change, but it is not time for change that destroys relationships. It's not that time. we're so much better together than separated. So I wanted to do this, and I'm hoping that the message was clear. Someone may hear this and may hear what I said and not at all hear what I said because they just chose not to hear. And if that's the case, that's the case. But for those who heard what I said, I'm saying that if I take this hand right here and you came up to me, man or woman, I'm telling you that you could break, if you grab this pinky and you pulled back hard enough, fast enough, strong enough, you could break my finger. If another person came and you grabbed this finger and you pulled hard enough, strong enough, used enough of your force, you could break this finger. I'm telling you that in this hand, you could break every finger if you used enough strength, force, you could. But if I took this hand and I make a fist and all my fingers are united together and together, it is really hard to break my fist. The only way change happens and stays happening is if we do this. But when we do this, we're vulnerable. My encouragement is to live like this, not like this. On this day of celebration of freedom, my hope and prayer is that we come together. We come together at the polls. We come together in conversation. My hope and prayer is that on this day, that you make this your day to connect and to empower one another to be greater than we are as individuals. We are so much greater than we are, and that is my hope and prayer. I wish you a beautiful Juneteenth. God bless you and your families. Make sure that you reach out to those that you love. Keep your message strong of hope and change, and keep exercising your freedom of speech. But at the same time, remember always who you're speaking to. And remember that change has no color. That change happens when all races, creeds, belief, colors come together and fight for change. And now let's be united in that desire for change. And let's remember that under God's eye, we're all one. With that, everyone, take care. God bless. Have a great, great day. Be incredible.